Late last night on social media, President Trump said trade talks with Canada have been, quote, terminated. Annual trade between the two countries, give or take, about $1 trillion. In some estimates, $1.3 trillion. The trigger? A $75 million ad campaign from the Canadian province of Ontario saying President Ronald Reagan was a free trader, which in the main, he pretty much was.
High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens.
Earlier today, Ontario Premier Doug Ford said the province will pause this ad campaign beginning Monday in hopes of resuming trade talks. President Trump has yet to respond to that move. Regardless, here's the question. Are trade talks truly terminated? This morning, a top White House official, Kevin Hassett, said they were paused. The Kobasi letter, which tracks and reports on financial matters and has 1 million followers on X, wrote earlier this month that it found an 11-step pattern to Trump warnings about new tariffs or cessation of trade talks. You can see the post right here. The upshot, big announcement, market panic or market trading around that panic, then soothing statements, then a resolution of some kind, usually happening, all of it, just before and just after a weekend. Kobasi says its analytical performance, therefore the performance of those who follow its advice, has improved when following this quote-unquote exact playbook. For more on the state of play with Canada, we turn to Nikole Killion at the White House. Nikole, great to see you. What else do we know today about this topic?
Well, I think what will be interesting, Major, is that you have President Trump set to leave for Asia later this evening, and Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, has already left for the region. They are both due to appear at a pair of summits there. So the question is whether or not they're going to talk about this issue. Now, to your point, the White House has remained mum about whether it would restart talks with Canada after the president said that those talks would be terminated. But I did have a chance to ask the president's top economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, about the president's position. Take a listen. Is this just a knee-jerk reaction?
I think the frustration has built up over time. I've been involved in some of these negotiations, and the Canadians have been very difficult to negotiate with. And you look at all the countries around the world that we've made deals with, and the fact that we're now negotiating with Mexico separately reveals that it's not just about one ad, that there's frustration that's built up.
So, again, Kevin Hassett there suggesting that this was kind of a buildup of frustrations that has been taking place for some time versus just a one-off because of this ad. Obviously, the Reagan Foundation and Institute sees it a bit differently, saying in a statement earlier today that it believes that this video misrepresents President Reagan's address back in 1987 and that it is pursuing legal options. But nonetheless, now that this Ontario Premier Doug Ford has said that this ad will come down, it will again be interesting to see if, in fact, the White House is willing to resume these trade talks, as the premier seems to suggest.
The backdrop for all this, USMCA, that's U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. Conversations about that due later on this month and the next to see if it's going to be renewed or in what form. Nikole Killion at the White House, thank you so very much. I want to bring in the CEO of the Consumer Technology Association. His name, Gary Shapiro. He's currently in Canada for trade meetings. Gary, you're right in the middle of this. What is going on there? What's the reaction? What are you hearing and what are you trying to accomplish?
Well, it's been quite a few days, honestly, because we started out here. Our mission was simply to try to push the trade talks forward, to express our support as Americans for a strong relationship with U.S. and Canada, and also to promote the CES, which is the biggest event in the world, business event. We get several thousand Canadians. But I'll tell you, a lot's happened. We were both in Ottawa and Toronto, and we had a lot of very interesting meetings, both with the federal government, the legislators, the executive people. And there's a very strong sense here that they want to move forward. They want to negotiate. And then we wake up this morning and we hear about this Minister Ford, the head of the province here in Ontario. And he's, Trump is very upset about this video. The video is accurate in this excerpt, but it's not accurate in the fact that it's part of the video where actually President Reagan imposed tariffs. But our message to Ford is that, look, every federal government, including Canada and the United States, has a constitution. It vests the authority in the executive branch. Ford is not part of the executive branch. He's a different party. And there's no real possibility, whether you agree with Trump or disagree with Trump or like the position, if all of a sudden you have ministers, it's like seeing the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, start running ads in Canada. It's just not really acceptable. It's not helpful. These are two federal issues before two extremely important allies. And the job I think we all need to agree on is we got to move forward and figure out the relationship in a positive way and get those trade agreements signed.
And Gary, when you say you've had lots of very interesting meetings, I'm sure that's true. You probably can't reveal everything that's very interesting about those conversations. But when you heard Kevin Hassett, top economic advisor to the president, say there's lots of frustration that's built up within the administration, and that's why it's negotiating just with Mexico and not Canada, how is that being received up there?
I think they want to negotiate and they're a little flummoxed as to what it is. But I think that the relationship between President Trump and the Prime Minister of Canada is actually much closer than the media seems to indicate on several levels. This isn't Prime Minister Trudeau anymore. This is a different person.
Carney,
has a strong economic background, and he's ready to talk. And I'm hopeful that they will be with each other in Asia. They'll have a sidebar. And as Trump, with his victory in the Mideast and is clearly focused on Russia and Ukraine and even China, that moves into the top three of the things he wants to resolve. Because let's be honest here, it really comes to whether President Trump wants to go forward with this or not. And I think for the sake of Americans and Canadians, we have to resolve this issue. This is our closest friend, our closest ally. They're important to our national defense. And we're such strong friends. We got to make up instead of having a breakup.
Gary, for what you do, what's the job impact? What's the availability of product impact in the United States and Canada if this goes south?
Well, it's devastating. I mean, we've worked for 30 years on the basis of their supply chains are integrated between Canada, U.S., and Mexico, and factories are in both places. The steel and aluminum tariffs are very difficult for Canadians to deal with, and frankly, Americans too. It's raising the cost of the average car almost $10,000. And the tariffs are not something we support. We support a negotiated deal that benefits both parties because tariffs are inflationary, and that's not something we need right now. We need a competitive marketplace, whether it's in technology or it's in fruits and vegetables that Americans have on their table every day. We're seeing price increases, and they're there, and every American knows it. And it's almost all of it is coming from tariffs.
And Gary, very quickly, can you afford to leave Canada right now? Are you going to extend your stay just to see this through for the next week or so?
I am in the airport, ready to get on an airplane. Major, I think my family would appreciate me coming home this week.
Very good. I appreciate the time, Gary. Thanks so much. Gary Shapiro, I appreciate it.
Thank you.